Okay, here we go, guys. For those of you that couldn't make it, I had to shut my door. For those of you that couldn't make it, we still appreciate you watching it. I mean, I think you're going to get a lot out of this, and I'm very excited to be doing this first Zoom in a long time because I mean things are about to get so exciting for us, and we've got like 2 to 3 months, I think, still to do these, you know, consolidation buys or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it could just be sideways for a lot of these tokens because we know. And let me start by showing you this chart. See if I can make this bigger for you. Okay. So we know that if I go over here to the total chart, this might look confusing at first, but basically what you're looking at is this purple area right here is altcoin value divided by crypto cash. So you think of like USDC, USDT, all of these stable coins. That's what I'm calling crypto cash there. So you've got that available cash ready to be put into the market. It's just sitting there on the sidelines. And what are we noticing here? Like we zoom in, what does this structure look like to you? Well, it probably looks like the 2022 breakdown and bottoming structure where it just goes sideways. Now, we could be wrong about that where there is one more dip, but notice how each time, and I know this is probably confusing because there's probably too many lines here. Let me make this a little bit more simple. But each time, let me just assume this is like Bitcoin price. You could look at it that way if you wanted to, but it's basically alts. But each time we have that top, it comes down, it does a little bear flag, drops, bear flag, drops, bear flag. So, you got one drop, two, three, and this is the fourth one, in my opinion, on a 4-day chart. So there's a very high time frame. We're not looking at something like 4 hour. This is actually the 4-day. And so we have to assume, because altcoins are just way, way oversold compared to Bitcoin, that altcoins are probably going to bounce before Bitcoin. So we're saying, okay, altcoins are ahead of Bitcoin if we're looking at the future. It's okay if Bitcoin has one more drop. It's probably not going to affect the alts that much. I mean, they'll still come down some. I mean, you may have some come down 30% or whatever. But generally speaking, we're so close to the bottom. And, you know, this is really the time to get excited about it. You've been waiting for a long time. You've dealt with all the frustrations of the market coming down. Hopefully, you've been learning to leverage trade. I mean, I really feel like the alerts that we have give some pretty good, and I'll go over those later so you better understand them. They give some pretty good early alerts that make you money. So I think everybody kind of needs to watch those and learn how they develop, and maybe in the future, you can jump into leverage trading and make money in any market. And the reason why that's important is because you can't short spot trades, right? You have to be able to, leverage trade to be able to short something. So you can make money in the bear market as well. That's the point. And I'd like for you to be able to do that, or at least learn to do that, because we're all about education here as well. We want you to learn. And I appreciate Rab being here and Gwiz. I mean, both of y'all have tried to teach people things as well, and others in the group have as well. Luke is real good at teaching people to stay positive, which is good too. Let's see here. Let me make sure there's nothing in chat before I move on. I don't have. Oh yeah, Luke said I'm so excited. I'm not surprised to see Luke say something like that, which is a good thing, Luke. I want you to. We want you to stay like that. That's good. All right. So this is pretty cool too. I'm going to show you something on Bitcoin. Then we're going to get into our, and this is a Q&A as well. I mean, if y'all have some questions on specific tokens, we'll get into that. But mainly, I want to show you here in a minute what tokens I think have the best chance to do well this cycle. Doesn't mean that any other tokens can't do well, but for spot, these will be the ones that kind of combine everything. And Tibber probably isn't on this list, but it's of course one of the top ones. I really need to add that to the list here, and I'll try to remember to do so. But what I want to show you on Bitcoin first is this. If we look at this, make sure, yeah, I'm on log. I mean, we can go to regular, it doesn't matter, but I like to stay on log just because it's easier to read. But if we look at this from a weekly standpoint, what is something that we notice for the super trend indicator? So super trend, it takes the average of the candle body and it divides it by two basically. So it's always giving you a stop loss area. And we know we've talked about this before, how engineering robo is heavily based on super trend. I don't know if y'all have noticed that before when you're using it, but if you compare the two, it tends to use a lot of the, you'll see like super trend will flip to green and then engineering robo will, or engineering robo will flip to green before super trend. So there's other things under the hood, and engineering robo is a great indicator, of course. But if you wanted to use just super trend on any time frame, it works very well. And I'm going to show you some examples of that here in a minute as well. But what we notice is that here on the weekly chart, when we're in an extended downtrend like this, whether you want to call it the bear market or wave four, like Tatiana, I believe, calls this wave four what we're in currently, and then we're going to have the wave five. But what you'll notice is when you have this downtrend, there is an obvious area where it flips to green. Now, there's a couple caveats here where, yes, it did flip a couple of times here as this 2020 thing happened, but that was kind of an anomaly. And then on the same note, as you get up to the distribution phase, we also saw that it got kind of choppy. You get green, you get red, green, red. But generally speaking, at the very bottom, it's going to give you a pretty good signal. Did it give you the very bottom? No. I mean, if you step back to like the 4-day or the 3-day, it would, but it's a little bit more choppy. I wanted to find something that, pretty much kept the green line all the way up. It gets a little bit choppy here at the top, but I want to find something that finds the bottom for us. And you can see every single time after that bear trend, the bull trend started, this one actually found a really good place to find the bottom. But here's an important note when you're looking at super trend. And by the way, I'm using the setting for 2.25 on the ATR. I think it starts out as 2.75 as the default. There's a guy named Filler Cone. I can't remember how to say his name on YouTube. If anybody wants his YouTube, let me know. But he likes to say keep it on 2.25 for the bear market and then switch to 2.75 for the bull. And I'm actually curious why he says that. Let me see something real quick. I imagine it has something to do with it retaining the green line all the way up. Yeah, that must be what it is. Okay, that makes sense. So the reason why he does this, we can see, is this retains, that stop loss for you all the way up, checking to see if it's time to get out on a weekly chart. And then at the very top, it gives you a great signal. Yeah, it gave you a pretty good signal here on 2020 as well. It got you out before the dip. Of course, you got in late, but that's fine. You were out of that scary dip. A little bit choppy here. Very good signal here. Okay. So let me switch that back to 2.25. I'm glad I thought of that because I meant to look that up. All right. So what are we looking at currently? Currently, we have that red line. There's no indication here just yet. We have 1, 2, our third dip. Well, you could call it 4 if you count these two. But I'm still thinking there could be one more. I mean, do y'all really think that people are scared enough yet? I haven't looked at the fear greed indicator yet, but do y'all really think people are sufficiently afraid that their money is just going to go away? Has there been enough capitulation? Does BlackRock feel like, they're going to make a lot of money at this point? There's one way to look at this is if you feel like, and I'm just going to use this number because it's fun to use 222. It's one of my favorite numbers. For whatever reason, it shows up a lot. When I'm going about my day, I end up finding it on my phone or a clock somewhere. But let's just say you were to buy Bitcoin here. And it's fun to look at numbers, right? So we'll look at, what that return would be. It's about a 2.5x. But what if my number hits? What if anything near 40K, let's say, hits? Or we'll be more conservative. Let's say, I feel like 53 at least is going to hit somewhere around there. So we'll use that number. So what happens if we do this? It doesn't seem like much of a drop, right? You wouldn't think that you would gain that much from that. But here's what happens. Now you make a 3x. Well, actually, it's a little bit more. Yeah, now you make about a 3x instead of a 2.5, which, I guess that's not a whole lot. But of course, the more you drop down, let's say it gets into the 40 range, which I think it will, then you're probably looking at what, a 5x possibly? Yeah, it's close to a 5x. So the point there being, we do want to DCA because we don't know where the exact bottom is, but we'd also, or at least I would prefer to keep some cash back just in case that last dip happens. So here's the thing. I mean, if you've DCA pretty well for yourself, like, Luke, I know has done a really good job at that. And you feel like you've got, your bags where you want them pretty much. I mean, I know you can never have enough. When this green super trend flips over, which would be this candle right here, then you just go ahead and start adding more. If you had that cash on the side, I mean, let's say you miss the bottom with the rest of your cash, it's no big deal. I mean, you're just missing a little bit of a move up here, and now you've got better confirmation. You can sleep at night. You're not worried about it because once it gets started, you feel like it's going to keep going until the top, unless they fool us somehow. Okay, so there's one other thing I want to show you, and this is just for people that might be saying, well, I think the bottom's in. If we look back at every single summer period, we're going to see they lasted about 56 days, and the dates I'm using, or the months I'm using, is from July to August. So the 1st of July to the end of August. And you could throw June in there, but I just wanted to make a point here that, and I'm only going to look at a couple of these. I don't want to spend too much time on it. You get some kind of pump, some kind of bear flag, and then you get a dump after that. And sometimes it falls further. We're not going to see something like this, of course, but you can see after this happens, usually you get a further dip of some sort. It even happened here when the bull market had started. Now, if you get into the bull market, of course, you're just going to keep getting higher lows. So we kind of have to throw ones like that out because they're not happening during a downtrend. This is a really good example. I mean, look how similar this one is currently. And I'm talking about this one right here. So you had that move up, down, had a lower high again, continuous lower highs, and it had one more dip. We know how this works, right? It never works out the same way it did in the previous cycle. They're not going to do the same fractal where it's just really easy for everybody. So we're going to get fooled somehow. We don't know what that is just yet, but they're going to find, whatever they've got planned, it's going to fool us. I guarantee you. So that's why it's important to DCA. But generally speaking, this does look very much like maybe this. And then, maybe this right here is this one. I don't know. But any dip further is going to be minimal compared to what we've seen. So we're so much closer to the bottom. And there's really no reason to play around at this point. So I want to show you the head and shoulders calculation as well, because I believe, 47 to 53 somewhere is probably what we would see if it did dip again. And I know this isn't perfect, but I didn't want to have to redraw it. Basically, I'm just taking the point of the head here down to this shoulder, and I could do this to make it more obvious. Yeah, that helps. Anyway, something like that. So it doesn't always work perfectly, but it's really close here. All I did was, like, if I deleted this and I just pulled this, I guess really close to the bottom there. Same thing here. I'm going to delete this and I'm going to pull this, same exact distance. So where does that put you? If it does dip again, I would watch for 48K. I still think it could wick down to like 37 or 38, but I could see, and why does this make sense? Well, you got a wick right here. You got a wick right there that got down to what, 49, 50K? And they like to sweep that liquidity, don't they? Where people have all of their stops and then they send it up. So if it does happen, I would be looking for that level. All right, I think that's all I wanted to show you. What was this? I drew some boxes there for some reason. Oh yeah, that was just to kind of show this illustration where that shoulder was taking place. Yeah. And it looks like these took about 231 days each time. So where does that put us? September. So I've pointed to October 6th. People want to believe that the 4-year cycle is not a thing, the timing and everything, but it's worked so far. So I have no reason not to believe it's not going to happen again. So I'd be looking for the end of September, early October. Could extend. I mean, we've seen things extend before. So, quarter four is what we're looking at anyway. And just so you know, in general, what happens is, and I don't know it'll happen the same way this time because alts are so oversold, but in general, what happens is Bitcoin pumps first, and then usually you see alts pump in like November or something. They'll already have established their base, and we'll see that with some of the tokens like Doge, where they're already establishing it. But yeah, just something to keep in mind there. All right. Let me jump over here. We'll start looking at some tokens. I think that's what I want to do. Trying to remember what we talked about here. So alts to accumulate. We're going to do some Q&A. Yeah, I mean, does anybody have any questions on that? I mean, I know the guys we have in here right now are pretty experienced as it is, but maybe or maybe y'all have an insight of some sort. Just let me know. I mean, everybody in our group is experienced by now, aren't they? Okay, I guess there's nothing. All right, let's see here. So next, I think we'll talk about, yeah, let's just talk about the list that I put together. I think that would be a good one. By the way, if you are into leverage trading, keep an eye on Ake here. It's starting to get um, some bearish divergences on the 1 hour anyway. I mean, it's still pretty thick in the green here, and MACD might be coming over, but I mean, this thing's already done like a 70x pump. It's crazy. So at some point, it's going to turn over. I really like Plume. I wanted to mention Plume real quick. And actually, I think I'm going to show you something here. One of the things I wanted to discuss. One thing to watch on your altcoins is this October 10th wick. Or was it October 6th? Well, it was either the 6th or the 10th. I think I have it on high time frame. That's what it is. So when this happened, everybody was speculating, saying, it's probably not going to visit that wick again, or maybe it'll just come down a little bit, like 3/4. I kind of thought it would just come down 3/4 and then everything would start going up again. But a lot of these altcoins, they're just barely sweeping this wick and then going back up. Some aren't sweeping it at all, at least not yet. Now, the really weak ones, they're way down here under the wick. They're not only sweeping it, they're coming way down here. And hopefully those recover. But this is something that I've noticed. This is typically, at the very least, you want to see your token get near this wick. And at that point, you can feel like, okay, it feels like it's going to probably hold there. Could dip one more time, but DCAing near this area is a pretty good idea, I think. Let me turn off one of these things. What do I have on? Oh, it's waves. Okay. Well, I like how it colors the candles. That's why I have it on. Anyway, this is like the EMA ribbon. So I've got the super trend on, and I've got my little EMA ribbon, the cloud, which is 2151. Of course, that's on a weekly. So this is weekly resistance up here. If we went to daily, it's going to look a little bit better, where we're actually above the green cloud. The 33 EMA, just something I was just now thinking of, is a EMA you might want to look into. Check it on your charts. I feel like it's one of the more important ones. A lot of people talk about 2151, and I do too. But I've noticed that the 33 EMA is a good line in the sand for bullishness versus bearishness on a little bit higher time horizon. So just, check it out, see what you think. But see what we're talking about here is we're just getting this chop. It's impossible to try and figure out where to jump into this thing because it's just up and down, going sideways. I mean, I could even put some lines on this thing in a higher time frame, which you should always do. Try to put some lines here so that, I mean, you could even put this wick line right there and call that your support. Yeah, I like this one too. So see where this came down and it had like an automatic rally off of this, and then it treated it as resistance. So you could even eliminate that support line and say, okay, well, that's my resistance. I need to see it get above that. But what I really like about super trend in this case is, so you can either do like a weekly or a 4-day if your token has enough history in it. and then check those two and say, okay, once I get the super trend flip right here, so it was red, now it's green, I'm just going to wait for this thing to come down within like, 5% or whatever of this super trend line. And as long as it holds, if you get a candle under it, of course, don't mess around with it. You could even wait for one candle confirmation. So here we go, it touches. Here's our 4-day candle touches. Then you get another 4-day candle that confirms that this is going to hold. So you would have waited 8 days total, 4 days, 4 days. Or if it was weekly, you would have waited, 2 weeks because you need an extra confirmation candle. And now you're already up, whatever this is, 40% or whatever, which I know is not much on spot, but on leverage, that's pretty good. You're actually making like 800%. So anyway, the thing to take into account here is, yes, you feel like you've probably found your bottom on this one. It could come down, do another, double bottom, whatever. But then now that you're into the cloud, which is a very good thing, if you're starting to close candles into the cloud, then you are actually getting bullish on the 4-day chart here. But you want to see that continuation. If you're doing like leverage trading or something like that, then what you want to watch for is the top of this cloud to see if it rejects it. And then if it gets out of it, let's just do a little thing here, a little practice. I'm just trying to teach you what I look for. That way, you don't feel like you need somebody to hold your hand. Not that I mind answering questions or anything. I'm just saying, everybody would prefer to be able to do it on their own, I'm sure. So let's just say this thing explodes, which some of them do. They sit down here for a long time. We know the longer they consolidate, they're going to explode eventually. But maybe you get something like this. It doesn't stop at the EMA 51 on the 4-day here, and then it comes back down and retests it, and then it's ready to go. We've seen stuff like this before, of course. So you need some kind of confirmation at each level. But if you're doing leverage trading, if you're doing spot, I would just keep holding it, of course. But if you're doing leverage trading, maybe you do want to take some profit here and then see what happens on the next candle. If it keeps going, hold your position. If it gives you a bearish candle coming back down, then maybe get out for now and wait for a breakout and retest. You could get back in. But sometimes there's a chance if it rejects there, it comes all the way back down. So just protect your profits, I think, is the main idea there. All right, let's look at our list. This is kind of the exciting part. We're going to start looking at what tokens, what tokens are the ones that make the most sense. Not that if your token is missing from this, it's a bad token. It's not that. It's just we can only look at certain tokens, right? We can only look at up to 30 out of 10,000. We can't look at every single one of them. So I got, just to let you know, I did use AI to help me come up with this list because it does much better job researching. But we also at the same time need to use our human intellect before just blindly believing what AI has to say. So we already know what tokens we like, right? But we're going to see what AI, where there's some overlap here, what AI has to say about it as well. So let's just take a look at, we'll start with ETH. We know ETH will probably bounce before a lot of these other tokens. Here on the weekly, it's kind of choppy, but let's just take this one chunk at a time here. So, and I'm not going to spend so much time on every single one of them, but we're going to talk about it a little bit here at the beginning. So we're currently in the downtrend. Obviously, we've had 1, 2, 3 drops. If we had a fourth, where is our support? And I'm going to turn this off briefly because really, when you look at a chart, you should always begin with drawing your own lines before looking at indicators. That's just my personal belief. So this wick right here would be a good area to watch. But there's also maybe here. Yeah. So I would say somewhere in this range, 1,000 to 1350, 1380. If we had one more dip, which I think we might, then that's where you want to watch to be accumulating more of ETH if you already have some. But I just don't think it's going to go under that unless we get some kind of wick down to somewhere in here, which we know happens, right? I mean, look at this right here in before the 2022 bottom, it had a huge wick. So they're going to scare people, I guarantee you. But another thing you can do, trend line. We love our trend lines because they give us breakout um, confirmation. And Luke and I have talked about this before on ABT. Just draw your trend line, and you can be accumulating as it comes down if you want. Once you feel like it's nearing the bottom, but put the rest of your money in whatever you wanted to allocate once you get the breakout, as long as it's not some huge candle. Okay. Yeah, that's right, Luke. So Luke's asking, I'll just bring the chat over here. Luke says that's only if BTC drops to 47 to 53. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, again, we've talked about Bitcoin dominance pretty extensively at this point. I've got a little triangle that I drew on here. I thought that there might be a chance it was going to come up here to 63% one more time. That's where that wick was. Because sometimes these wicks do get filled. I mean, look at this one right here. Um, I mean, I can't think of many wicks that don't get filled. Here's one that didn't. Here's one that didn't. So, I mean, if we compare these structures, so peak, dip, I mean, it could still come up here, which would be, yeah, I guess that would kind of coincide with a big dip for Bitcoin. But I mean, this is for altcoins, right? We don't really care what, we don't care so much about Bitcoin. We want to see this thing drop. Currently, it's looking pretty bearish. I mean, just because this looked like this over here doesn't mean that this one has to. The only way that I would even consider that something like this was going to happen is if it broke out of this upper triangle right there. So currently, we're risk on, to be honest, for alts. This thing is engulfing this other candle on a high time frame, but we're just waiting. They're trying to make us impatient because that's human nature. Most of the time, we should do the opposite of what our mind is telling us, and we'd probably make more money. All right, let's see, go back to ETH. Yeah, so that's what you want to watch for on ETH. And I'm going to go quicker here because I don't want to have you here all day. What are we looking at here on Sol? So yeah, Sol, we had 1, 2, 3 drops, could be a fourth. Wouldn't be much, I don't think. I don't like that there's such a big gap here is the only issue. So what I'm going to look at here is I'm going to take a conservative fib probably to that shoulder right there and to this lower or inverted shoulder. Something else, I mean, this is very helpful. It's going to sound a little bit existential, or maybe there's a better word for that. But something that would really help you when you're looking at charts is look for head and shoulders. And I know that sounds simplistic, but the problem is that it gets very hard to see them when it's at an angle like this. I mean, some people would say there's no way this is possible that you're calling this head and shoulder, but I really think that it is. It's just a more aggressive angle. And so here's your inverted head and shoulder, just at a more aggressive angle. These are a little bit tougher, but it might be something like this. And the reason why these are important is because Bitcoin acts like this a lot. Altcoins act like this a lot, meaning that it will develop price up to a point, and then it'll pull back and it'll have one more higher high to fake everybody out, to grab as much liquidity as they possibly can from all these people. Maybe people shorted right here, and now they're taking those people out. And then they just get longs and shorts all the way up, right? And then all the way down again. So, it's just human. I mean, when you see something like this pop above this level, your human brain's automatically going to say, well, we're going to the moon. We're going to a million. So, they're just using our human brain against us, really. So we just have to control that. So we'll be watching for that, at the top, of course. But yeah, Sol, I would say, I mean, a trend line would do you really well here. And who knows, it could be breaking out here. It's very hard to say, but we have seen it before, right? Where there is a breakout and then it bleeds a little bit more down that line and then it's ready to go. So one other thing you can do, of course, is watch your RSI. look for, and your MACD can help you as well, but look for bullish divergences. We talked about stuff like that before. Use waves indicator that we made. Look for higher lows on these green dots. Look for green vertical lines, meaning bullish divergence is showing up. I mean, look how nice this was. The first one wasn't perfect. Second one wasn't perfect. But by the time you got to the third one, it took off. What you want to watch for on the waves indicator is if price is coming down, wait for it to peak on the bottom, reach its maximum, and then start to taper back up. On longs, if you're profit looking for profit taking, or if you're looking for a short position, wait for it to taper down. Usually, I mean, this happens so much. Usually what happens is it'll have some dips along the way. It'll pop up really quick. It'll have one more flush, and then, it'll do some kind of final fake out like this. This is, if you can stay patient on this and you want to play these shorts, it's so powerful just to wait for some kind of fake out back up after it turns red the first time. I see it so many times. I mean, yeah, you got a lot of bearish divergences right here, but the actual dip didn't happen until back here. And you could even stay patient and wait to get into the short until actually, it turned red the second time here. But, we're looking at a weekly chart, so you would have entered the short a little bit late anyway. But it doesn't matter if it's in a bear market already. These take a long time to play out. All right, I know I'm talking a lot here. So Link, this is one that everybody can get behind. I think, a lot of people are excited about this one. Here it is on the weekly. I've got my EMA ribbon. It's getting into that EMA ribbon, which we want to see. We want to see these start to close within. We've got a tapering waves money flow indicator here. That's looking good. What does our support look like here? I mean, you could call this your support currently, where it was once resistance right here. And I'm using a loose line here. I'm not trying to make it perfect, but I think that looks pretty solid. There's still a chance, of course, that, maybe it comes down to this one. This could be a fake out. So until this thing clearly gets above the EMA, which really, I prefer the 2-day if I feel like something's found its bottom. And you can see clearly we're getting bullish here for Link. Look at that. This money flow is fully tapered almost to green now. So probably what we're going to see, I mean, there is a bit of a trend line here. No, it's over that trend line. Okay. Probably what we're going to see is it's going to maybe get up to here, $10 or whatever, and then might have a little pullback. Could pull back all the way here to wherever this EMA ribbon is at. But I like the 2-day because if it gets bullish, one of the best places to buy the bounce area is after it turns red to green. And I know Rab really likes to do this as well. Maybe not on the 2-day. He looks at other things. But look at this right here. You did get one fake out there, but look at that. Perfect. Bounce right off the EMA cloud on the 2-day. This was back in this one. It gave you a lot of opportunities here to get in, into the 2-day. You can use the daily too, though. You don't have to use a 2-day. What does it look like on daily? Yeah, it's already turned green on the daily. Waves gave you a really good signal here. It gave you a very rare blue diamond signal here, same back here. So if you see the blue diamond signal on daily or above, consider it more. It's a rarer signal that requires multiple confirmations. And of course, that wasn't the bottom, but if you're playing spot, who cares? You got close enough if that is the bottom. And here's our same thing we were talking about with the October 10th wick. So here's the wick, almost came into this line, bounced right off of that after it swept. I mean, that's showing a lot of strength to me. And now it's closed back above it. So this is looking really strong, to be honest. This is one of those examples where just because Bitcoin might still be weak, you're already seeing some of these tokens, some of these altcoins, because altcoins were beaten down so badly that, that maybe this one already found its bottom. It's possible. All right, XRP, I'm going to go back to a time frame. And if y'all have any comments, anybody here, if you have comments or anything, just let me know. XRP is always a little bit tougher to figure out just because it always has these huge gaps, right? And you just never know, what if this thing has to come all the way back down. There is a kind of a support line somewhere in there. I don't think it would come this far. I mean, that would be crazy. The level that I think it could reach, I think I talked about this on my, well, actually in Discord and on X, but I think I had around 77 cents right here. Whoops. There was 7777. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I see why I did it now. You got some wicks that were coming up here. These didn't quite reach it, but that was where the capitulation took place right here after this bear flag in 2022. So this makes a lot of sense for a bounce area if it was to come down once more. And you can see, I mean, it's bearish, right? There's nothing telling you here on a high time frame anyway that this thing's even remotely close to start moving back up. But on the flip side, it doesn't take much for XRP to finally move. Once it's ready to move, it can shoot up quick. But at the very least, I mean, look at this. Back before this pump in 2024, you had this tapering of the red back to green. So yes, you're probably going to miss the pump if you're not in it before on something like this, but you can see the signs before it happens. I mean, look how nice this bullish divergence vertical line was right there. It actually gave, and you only get this with waves. I mean, I built this to help out finding things like this on a higher time frame or low. I think it works better on a high time frame, anything over 4 hour. So, just jump around to different time frames. I would really suggest that. I mean, if we were to bring super trend, I kind of forgot to bring super trend back into here. And turn waves off so we can look at it by itself. What are we on weekly? Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing like we're waiting on this red line to turn green. XRP did really good man, that's crazy. Look at that. So back when the 2022 bottom happened, you got this big pump and you got a wick right on the super trend green line. That would have been a great place to have an alert. So think about that. If you want to look at 4-day, 2-day, whatever you want to look at. We'll see what 2-day is showing currently for. Yeah. So 2-day is really tied against it, showing the exact rejection points. But you're going to get chopped up a bit, I believe. Let's see what happened back here. Well, no, it should work out okay. But notice, okay, let's make a mark here. What is this? September 2022. We're going to jump back over to weekly. So that was slightly before the buy, the weekly buy, which we know, higher time frames lag. So what you could do is you don't buy this one, either one of them. You just wait for the pullback. Don't have to wait for it to touch it, within 5% or whatever you want to call it, and then jump in. And that's what you would do with your remaining cash. If you want to accumulate here, that's fine. It's up to you. There's no problem doing that because we're already close to the bottom. But if you want to hold that remaining cash and wait for an actual true signal for the bottom, then just go here on alert, go to super trend and super trend buy or super trend direction change, I think would work too, either one. I guess if you wanted both buy and sell signals, then you'd probably do this one here for direction change and then hit create and you'll get a pop-up whenever that happens. You can also send it to your phone. Okay, what do we have next? We have hype. I know a lot of people are big on this one, which is funny that it's named hype. If we look at the 4-day, actually that's really nice, isn't it? Look at that. So you got a bounce right there. There's probably some overhead resistance here somewhere that will happen. This could be, just based on what I'm seeing, what if this is one of those one of these triangles that kind of bounces. I don't know how long it would take, but bounces within here and then breaks out. Looks like consolidation to me, not distribution, but you never know. I mean, what was this, 2025? This could be a situation where it is distribution. It popped above this resistance point. They're grabbing liquidity and then they're going to send it down one more time. I mean, this could be a bear flag. Always consider both sides. Don't just, automatically be bullish or bearish. Always consider that could be a bear flag as well. See what it looks like. Oh, we can bring in waves to help us out here. Let's open up waves. Where are you at? Oh, I guess I don't have it on here. Oh, you are under the super trend red line there. What are we looking at daily? Yeah, so technically this is still bearish. Even though it's in a bullish pattern, maybe, I would still be very careful. It's very similar to what Bitcoin's doing right now, I think. So you were bullish all the way through here, bearish. If you get a red dot here, yeah, it's coming down, at least back to the bottom line there. So to me, it looks like a bear flag, possibly. You're just getting marginally higher highs here, and very tight, Trying to think of an area I could show you. Yeah, right here. I don't know, something like that, bear flag. Not perfect, but kind of the same idea. Had a little fake out and then a fake up and then down. So, this could be very similar to what happens, just a little bit of a dip, nothing substantial because alts are so beaten down. But, this one isn't really. It's already been going up about, what, 200%, maybe 300%. So maybe this thing needs a little bit of a rest. Also, always keep drawing your lines here. The reason why drawing lines are important is because, I don't know, something like that. It's not going to be exact. Yeah, it's close enough. Is because you can get some early, warnings about what might be happening on price. But you can also, let's say this thing pops up here, you can also find points of support if it was to, move back up again. Anyway, hard to say what's going to happen with that one just yet. But until it gets above this super trend line, this red line on the daily, I would be more risk averse on it. Grizzly said, oh wait, sorry. Let's see. M says falling wedge. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah, I mean, right there is a fall. Yeah, it's sort of a falling wedge with a breakout. Could be. I mean, this is a pattern that shows up a lot when things get bullish. It'll do some kind of like little M thing here, and then a W, and then it takes off. So, I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying it can't do that. I'm just saying consider both sides of the coin. Don't just automatically be bullish. Grizzly said, wait, didn't it just have the blue diamond? Yeah, let's look back at that. I think I got to open up waves. Okay, blue diamond. What were we looking at? 2-day, daily, maybe? Oh, look at that. This is another reason I like looking at multiple time frames. If this green dot prints and you're getting a bounce off the super trend and you're getting a bounce off the EMA ribbon or the EMA cloud, how much time do we have? Where's my thing? Why isn't this showing countdown? That's weird. Oh, it's hidden. Okay, so you got a day and 9 hours until this closes. So check out your waves. If you don't have waves, DM me. I'll get you set up on it. All I need is your TradingView username. But these green dots that are pretty tight to the midline here, as long as it's not super red like this, usually you want it to be green up here would be preferable. But usually when you get these on a high time frame like 4-day, that could indicate that it's a bottom, that it's about to start taking off again. I mean, if you're looking at this on a 4-day, yeah, clearly this thing's bullish. There's no reason to be worried about it other than the fact that it's kind of rejecting here off the top of the EMA cloud. And you could just call this your support right here at 5160 and say, okay, I'm just going to hold this thing as long as it's above 5160. And that's perfectly reasonable. And the reason why is look at this shoulder over here. So you had a little shoulder, head, shoulder. Well, it turns out that Supertrend did a really good job of showing you where that support was, although it didn't intend to, because that's not really how it works, but it did work out that way, that this is your true support, or at least close to it. And then the blue diamond, yeah, there you go. This must be what Gwiz is talking about. On the 2-day, it has one, and on the daily, it has one as well. So if you're not in it yet, turn on your super trend, look at daily and 2 day. What does the 2 day super trend look like? Okay. Um, just see which one you think makes the most sense. I think 2 day does, just because it had some rejection points. Um, but I think you have to consider two things here. If the EMA here on the 2 day continues to roll over, I wouldn't get in just yet. Um, or if you get a rejection right here. Now, if you get a close above the super trend right there, I think that's a better place to take a position, or take a position down here at the support. Makes more sense to me. And then and the reason for that, by the way, is something that leverage traders do because our stop losses have to be tighter. You want to be finding the closest entry to support or bounce or retest on a short, or not on a short, retest on a long, rejection on a short. You want to be as close to those areas as you can, because then that means that your spot doesn't, your stop doesn't have to go as far. You won't lose as much money if the trade turns against you. Oh, you meant from a few minutes ago. Let me see. Oh, which token was that? M. I don't know who M is, or I'd be calling you by your name. In fact, I can't even see everybody. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, just let me know which one you meant, M. Which falling wedge you meant, which token, and I'll go back to it. All right, Sui. Oh, you okay? This one. Oh, this one. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know which chart I was looking at. I mean, which time frame I was looking at exactly. Was it 4 day maybe? No. Yeah, I mean, either that or just call it a trend line like that. I mean, that's perfect. Look at that. I don't necessarily see a falling wedge there, but I see what you're saying, that it was that resistance line, that downtrending resistance line that it popped out of. So yeah, I mean, it's looking good. I don't think there's any reason to be too concerned about it just yet, but you just want to watch to see if you get any rejection. Oh, hey, Mark. Yeah, you just want to watch to see if you get any rejections on that. Okay, Sui. Let's always look at high time frames first. I mean, if your token has the ability, enough history to do so, start as high as weekly if you can. We are getting some tapering. That's a good sign on a very high time frame. You got some support levels down here. You got a wick all the way down here at 47 cents. Just trying to see if there's any lines you can draw here. I mean, yeah, you can draw horizontal lines, stuff like that. One thing I want y'all to know about is, and this is going to sound very strange, it's just something that I've noticed that you can keep an eye on in the future. Let me just kind of turn everything off here. These, can't even think of the word. I'm kind of lost the word here for a second. Well, anyway, I can't think of it, but what you're looking for is liquidity. You're looking for those zones that they take it down to. And so you'll have these little W's or these little M's like this. And as you come up or, come down, like here, for example, this is definitely a support area somewhere in here. And I'm going to point out exactly what I'm talking about here. The points of these little W areas here, typically that's where it comes back to. So if we put just above this little candle right there, or just above that one, it's not the exact bottom of it. It's kind of right in the pocket of it. So somewhere in this, well, it's already hitting it, but somewhere in this area is probably the bottom for this. I mean, there's still a chance it could be this one, which would be 45 cents. So, keep that in mind, but that's not much of a drop. This is about what I figure most alts would do if Bitcoin dropped again. I think if the altcoin hasn't found bottom, it's probably about a 30% dip, and that's it. And then everything will be at its support for the bull run. So that is a sweep of this little wick right here, if that was to happen. So it makes sense. Think about things that might make sense if they were going to try to scare everybody one more time. And that's one of those things. So there's your lines for Sui. Let's see. I'm going to bring chat over here so y'all can see it. So Gwiz says Stanley Druckenmiller just opened a position in per the DAT for hype. It will come. Oh, wow, that's something. Yeah, if you get these big name guys opening positions in things that not many people know about, that's a pretty big deal. So hype per, those, well, I just realized that hyper. I didn't mean to do that, but that's interesting. I wonder if they meant it to be that way, hyper. So anyway, those are a couple to consider in that ecosystem. Mark says, how much lower do you think hype may go if it pulls back more? Was that the one? Here, let me go back to it real quick. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that, did we? Um, I don't think it would have much to go. Maybe here, 41. Well, let's just see what 30% is. That's all we really have to do. I don't know. Maybe I'll take it from here. 35. I'd say 35 to 41 if it was to dip again. There is there's also an area right here. So always look for your resistance. Okay, so this was, at one point this was support. Yeah, I like this better. So at one point this was support. It was resistance temporarily. Worst case scenario, you're looking at 35, I think. You can also take your fibs, be conservative with your fibs. Um, what is this one right here? 42. So what I would normally do here is I would take a box and I would say, okay, here's worst case scenario. Oh, did it way too far over there? Here's worst case scenario. And that's between, what did we say, 42 and 35. Yeah. That's the 50% retracement if it was to do it. And take all this with a grain of salt. I mean, this thing could be, this could just be a pullback continuation, which that's what it looks like to me so far anyway. But there is everything in these charts is designed to confuse every single thing. So what if this is a shoulder? What if that's a head? What if that's a shoulder back down? Could happen. Always consider the worst possibility. But all you have to do if you're in a trade, here, I'll show you. If you're in, let's look at SUI. Here's how easy this is. If you're in a trade and you got super trend open, like let's say you bought anywhere down here, it doesn't matter. You could have bought here and you're in this trade. Super trend did not tell you to sell until here. So don't sell. And I'll show you an even better one. If you have waves open, you're going to get an EMA ribbon cloud. Just, keep on staying in it. And then when candles start to close back into the cloud, consider getting out. You don't have to, I mean, you even got a rare red diamond right here was the exact top. Of course, this is on a 3-day. I'd have to see what it looked like on a 2-day. Yeah, you got this. I mean, this is less rare, but it's still a very good signal. What this orange triangle does is it looks for a close back under the 33 EMA. And like I mentioned, the 33 EMA, I think there's more to it than that, but that's the main thing. And you can see it does a pretty good job of finding these tops. The red diamond is usually more rare, but for whatever reason on the 2-day, it didn't show you anything. And if you go to the daily, you're going to get many more signals. But what I like about waves is, let's say you missed this down here and you still wanted this token. Well, just wait for your next signal. You're going to get some kind of extended move and it's going to have to pull back. And now it's right into the cloud and you get your buy signal, bam, now you just hold. And as you get lower in your time frame, even with daily, you could just wait till green turns to red and get out. You don't have to use that other idea where you wait until candles start closing back into the cloud. It's really up to you. Just test it, look back at the tokens you're interested in trading. Um, you know, Main thing is protect your profits. Don't let the profits slip away this time. That's what we need to focus on. We're gonna get in these bottoms. We're gonna get close enough that we're gonna make plenty of money. Uh, so I'm really excited for y'all. I'm excited for me too. Yeah, we're gonna make money. I guarantee you that. All right, let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, so Luke's saying I was thinking of opening a SUI position because it hit your support for long-term play. Oh yeah, you were looking at those older charts that we did. Yeah, I can bring that one up actually. Let's just look at that real quick. What he's talking about is this. If I can find it, long-term plays, which not all of these are viable anymore, but because I haven't updated them. But here's what he's talking about. These are lines that I drew a long time ago. Yeah, it's right into that support. And it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, the stronger ones are going to hold above this October 10th wick. Um, that's the only reason I think it could dip one more time is just because most of them do have to dip slightly under it. And that number would be, 50 cents or so. So we saw Link do that, right? Even Link did that. And it's been beaten down for so long, it's crazy. Okay. Let's see. What else do we want to do here? BNB, I'm not as excited about. I mean, maybe y'all like that one, but I need to go through these a little bit quicker. And let me know if you have any questions on these, because some of these I'm just going to go through quickly. But clearly, if we turn super trend back on, and I know Rab likes this better. He would rather look at it this way, which is a good way to look at it as well. So you've got your daily, the blue and the yellow here are the daily 2151. The orange, I mean, this is a great way to look at it as well, because now you have your resistance areas as you go up. So we've got the orange is the weekly 21, purple is the weekly 51, or is that right? Yeah. And then the 200 is the red line right there. So a lot of resistance coming up on this one. But once you get that flip, this was support at one point. Now it's resistance, rejection right there. Rab loves these plays. They're very profitable for him. This would have been a pretty good short right there. Of course, that's, you're waiting a long time for that. He would rather see it after it happens, after he'd rather go to a lower time frame. Sometimes you'll get like a rejection immediately. That would be a good point to, well, I guess you'd look up here. Yeah, see right there or here. This is kind of what he watches for. So 2151 daily rejection or cross comes back up, almost touches it short. On a higher time frame, what did I say the orange was? 21 weekly. On a higher time frame, it comes back up, temporarily gets over the weekly 21, comes down, rejects on it again. That would be another good solid entry. And then there's another one. So there's plenty of opportunities. You just got to be patient, right? Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Later, Gwiz. Appreciate you. Okay, so Tao, so this is a really good one for us. I think this is going to be a great play. Tatiana loves this one, which I think Tatiana is going to be with us next Sunday, not tomorrow, but um, 2 Sundays from now, basically. So she'll be on this next one we do then, if you're missing her. um, yeah, weekly on Tao. I mean, this, funnily enough, oddly enough, this is very similar. Y'all have heard me talk about Movie before as being one of the first Nansen plays that I ever did that made me a lot of money. I did like a 10x on it, not realizing that, at least back then, smart money tracking was a very good thing. I think it's lost a lot of its, what made it good because more and more people are using it. So that's why I've been pivoting. I'll always pivot for you. If I feel like something's changing, I'm going to pivot as soon as I can. And that's why I'll show you some of the alerts later. And if you can't stay for the whole thing, that's fine. I'm recording this, but I'll show you how the alerts work later, which they use things like super trend, EMAs, what else? The waves indicator is a big part of it. So I'm trying to get us alerts as soon as we can. And that's what I've pivoted to now, because why wouldn't I? Everything is going to be about spot plays now. And we're still going to do, I'm going to do leverage trading anyways, but most of my portfolio, like 90% of it, maybe more, is just spot, because why fight it? Just go with the bull trend is what you want to do. But this reminds me a lot of Mubi, where it's just kind of a triangle, or maybe you even want to call it a falling wedge here, or a pennant, or whatever you want to call it. It's just, sideways consolidation, and it'll be ready to go. I mean, it's probably not too far. and it'll be ready to go again. For anybody thinking it's coming down here, I just I really don't think that's going to happen. Your support line somewhere down here, if it was to come back down. So the way I would look at it is, and I'm very big on this one, as she is. But if you, well, the wick already got close to the super trend line here on the weekly, and it's getting close to it again. I mean, if it came down to the line, I'd probably buy some more. I'm trying to see, there's always a chance it could sweep this previous one right here just to scare people out. So what is that? 135 would be kind of the lowest I could see it doing. Could it do 100 because of this right here? I mean, yeah, maybe, but I don't know. It's just hard to believe it would do that after consolidating for so long. You can see this 50% line here on the fib is working as support. Um, the 8/8 fib way down here, I don't think it's going to happen. But if we brought up something like the 382, what would that be? Oh no, I'm thinking the wrong way. What am I looking for? 786, yeah. So that's 84. I usually don't have these up. What else can we bring up? Is that it? Oh, 618. I'm forgetting one of the most important ones. Yeah, 130-ish also makes sense. So maybe it just keeps bleeding a little bit more. Bitcoin falls once more and it comes down here. I would be very aggressive in buying here at 130 if this did happen, because I really don't think it gets under that unless it's a wick. But it could. Who knows? But the upside potential of this one is pretty much like Doge and the rest of them. I think I've got some. Oh yeah, this is what we set. Tatiana is working on the updated spreadsheet targets, so you'll see that probably around October. We don't really need them now anyway, but she's trying to get around to that. It's a lot of work. But these are the original targets that we had, and if we look at what that move would look like, it's about a 10x. I think it can do more than that, but that would be a conservative target. Okay. Oh yeah, Luke's saying the ETF coming out or coming for Tau is super bullish. Yeah, that's huge. Okay, HBAR. This is another one I think can do really well. Let's see, I don't know if this is. Well, we're looking at the MEXC chart. I should probably be looking at Binance charts, but it's fine. Maybe this isn't the full history of it, but it's okay. I think it'll work fine. Same thing. We're just waiting for Super Trend to show us. Let's see what the 2-day looks like. Yeah, it's getting okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk about during this live stream is how to find these that are like really compressed tightly and way oversold, like extreme oversold. They drop below the 30 RSI, maybe hit 20 or even lower, and they're starting to come back up. They're developing bullish pattern or bullish divergences in the RSI. If we look at this on a regular, I always look at the log because it's just easier to see. But if we look at it this way, look how compressed and tight this is. You got your sweep. This looked like the bottom because it barely swept it, but you got one more dip, which makes me even more confident that this thing's really close to the bottom. Not only that, but look at all this history back here. It could dip back into some of this stuff right here, but it's not getting lower than that. So now all you're waiting for is either I mean, you could wait for the 2-day or just watch the 2-day would be fine. But, if you did like a weekly or a 4-day, you could wait for the flip where it turns green on the super trend and then wait for the first impulse comes down. And then you buy that bounce, which I think Rab can get behind that idea too. It's not the same way he normally does things. I don't believe so anyway, using super trend. I think we have talked about this indicator before recently, but it's very powerful. And while I'm talking about that, let me just show you one thing. What was that one? Ace. I know Ace did it. Bless did it. Let's see if Ace shows us that move. Okay, yeah. So look how here on the 4-day, I think that's what I want to show you. So on the 4-day, it gave one fake out here, and that's why it's good to wait for that first impulse, which this one did the same thing back here, but it failed at the super trend line. So this is what it looks like if it fails. You may have bought this thinking it was going to hold and that would be fine, or that would be fine, but Once you saw it break that support, you would just get out. This makes a lot more sense now. That was like an automatic rally. Look how tightly compressed things are. So when things are expanding like this, there's a lot of volatility. Now you're just waiting on volatility to show up again. So this doesn't look like much, I know, but if you go back to maybe a 2-day or a daily, it's going to look like something. So you got your first impulse, you got your pullback, and you wouldn't have been able to catch that unless you were on the 12-hour, looks like. Yeah. So it bounced right off the 12-hour. So this is what I'm talking about, switching to different time frames. Once you get that first impulse, just start checking every day. You're like, okay, well, I got that. This thing's running away from me. I'm feeling nervous because I'm not going to get a chance to get in, but it always gives you a chance. Um, so just, flip around. I mean, technically you could have said, yes, it touched the 2-day right there before it pumped. So you could have bought there on the 2-day, but the 12-hour actually gave you a really good indication of this holding as a support. But this always takes a long time. So if we look at ACE, I also want to show you this. If I search in the signals here in volume alerts and listings, and I search ACE, so when did this thing first show up recently? 87, 86, 86. Okay. This was the first alert right here on 86, which I don't know why didn't that thing give a waking up? That's strange. Maybe it did it before. Usually it'll say waking up if it hasn't been active for a long time. Or a confirm. Oh, it gave a confirm move. I wasn't looking at it. So if you get a big embed card like this, I'll call this an embed because it's a big card that gives you a lot of information. If you see this and it's been a certain amount of time since the last alert, like at least 2 weeks, it's saying right here, this token has pumped before and is moving again. Momentum confirmed. So it's telling you, hey, pay attention. If this thing gives you another alert, you probably want to get in this thing. And I did. I actually played this first impulse on the second one right here. I had posted in the Discord. I said, hey, I'm getting into this. Um, so this was your continuation right here. This told you, you don't have to get in this first one if you don't want to. And generally speaking, it does a pullback. So the only way this shows up is if it goes at least 20%. It has a 20% pump. So you usually don't want to chase things like that. So you wait for another signal, which this one took, well, it only took 1 hour for that second signal. So as soon as you see that, you go check the chart and whatever it was doing at the time, it was probably something in here. You'd probably want to go down to like the 4-hour or something. Here it is right here. Was it the 8th? Sorry, I forgot what it said here. 8-6. Oh, okay, yeah, it was over here. So 10 o'clock on 8-6 was this pullback right here. And it pumped. I took some profits somewhere in here. I don't remember if it was here or here, but I wasn't watching. It was a stupid mistake. I should have been watching multiple time frames and said, okay, if this thing comes back down and it holds support, then I'm gonna ride this next wave. So if you're looking at Elliott wave, which I don't really look at very much, but if you were, then you could say something like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhere down here. I don't know exactly. It's probably getting close to it, but there's probably one more move in this thing, which I don't really care for. 3 is the one that you want to catch usually. Sometimes 5 is pretty good, but that's what happened here. First impulse on, right here on this one move, and then a pullback. This is what you want to buy right here. So even though you had a red area here that was scary, you did get a buy signal here again from super trend, and then on the 2-day, or sorry, the 12-hour, you had a wick right into the support right there. So, just kind of jump around, look at it and see stuff like that, and you'll come up with a better. It's hard to do in real time, I agree, but you'll find some reasons to jump in instead of being worried about it. Oh yeah, that's true. Luke was saying grayscale fed at HBAR. That was funny. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that always happens at bottoms, doesn't it? So yeah, back to HBAR. Sorry, I kind of got sidetracked there, but I just want you to understand this is one of the things I wanted to show y'all. One of the things that I'm extremely excited about that um, we need to be watching for is these tight compressions at support levels, especially. And it's going to make you a lot of money. I mean, the first impulse will make you a lot of money, but the pullback and the third wave is where it's really going to make you a lot of money. And probably what you're going to see with HBAR, always be thinking, what are my resistance areas? What would that look like? What makes the most sense? Well, I'm just connecting, obvious areas together, and I'm saying, okay, well, 22 cents maybe might see a rejection there. Doesn't mean you're definitely going to, but it's something to think about anyway as things go up. At least be watching. So HBAR pullback, highly doubtful it has much of a pullback. It is dipping a little bit right now, which by the way, what's Bitcoin doing? Bitcoin 2-day, or is it the daily? Okay, here is what matters with Bitcoin right now, just really briefly. If it loses this daily super trend, it's coming down, period. I think that it will, but that's your confirmation anyway. If you want to take a short there's nothing wrong with taking a short if you're in perps. Um, I think we're developing a trend line, which it's been developing, but there's some kind of trend line here. Fake out, dips back under it. Minimum 53, 54K is what I'm looking for, and it could drop lower. Let's see. Mark is asking, do you have significant allocation on HBAR or minimal? Yeah, it's definitely worthy of it. I mean, Tau, HBAR, really good ones. There's a lot of other good ones. Tiver. What else? Yeah, I'll just go through the list here real quick since you're talking about it. I don't know why Ton is X'd out here, but anyway. Um, where did HBAR go on this list? What in the world's going on? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah. Well, this CC right here reminds me of CCD. Don't forget about that one. That's another one of the big convictions for Tatiana as it's dipping. Yeah, Tau, HBAR, SUI, SEI, Hype, XRP, Link, Sol. I mean, ETH to a certain extent, but you're limiting your return on something like that because it's such a high market cap. You're looking at like a 10x on a lot of these right here that are higher market caps. Not ETH, of course. Well, ETH maybe 8x. I'm not sure what ETH can do. I'd have to look at that more closely. AAVE's in a really good spot. We're going to look at that here in a minute. ONDO's probably a good one to look at. Render, Pump. I'm seeing a lot of chatter about that. It's got a lot of people behind it. Caspa, yeah, it has a huge community, but there's something about that one I just don't like. It's just more of a me thing. AERO, Grass, Syrup has done well in the past. PENDLE was a really big one. Inge, I'm not so high on this cycle, but it could still do well. The reason why I'm not is because I feel like from its higher macro, it had a really good run last cycle, and I just don't know if it's going to have as good a one. Aether, Plume, I don't know why, but Plume just speaks to me, and I'm actually in a position for leverage right now on that one. But it really depends on what Bitcoin does. I mean, I could look over here. I bet my positions aren't doing that great. Yeah, Plume's still doing okay. Yeah, Plume's okay so far. What else? So I'm going to show you Tensor, me, and Plume real quick while I'm thinking about it. My Bitcoin short's not doing anything yet, but I'm going to show you. Oh, that's a cool image. Where did I go? This one, yeah. Okay. What did I say? Tensor me. This is exactly what I just talked about. Look at that. Super compressed. Now, the only thing that's a little bit scary with these is what if the token's just dead, right? What if it's done? But we see a lot of these pump right off the bottom. So they're really good for leverage trading or for spot. I mean, if you have confidence in that the team's not just going to give up on it and sell all their tokens, which can happen. It can happen to any token. We've seen it. There's a lot of really scammy things that happen in this, but we also have the opportunity to make a lot of money. So you take the good with the bad. But yeah, I mean, there you've got Tensor. On the 4 day, it's already, look at that. I don't know if it's going to come down to this line or not. Maybe it will. It's trying to curl up, it seems like to me. But here's your line in the sand on this one. It would be a sweep of these two wicks if it happens. So it does make sense. So if this thing starts to turn around on me, I'll just let it go and I'll wait to see if it's going to bounce right here. This would be an amazing place to take a position if it did. And then we're going to look at me, which is Magic Eden. I have heard of this one before. So I think it does have some people behind it as far as socials. There's people that are very interested in it. But yeah, we've got a basing structure here with support. What does the weekly look like? Yeah, I mean, weekly. I think the reason I got in this one was because of my waves indicator. Yeah, waves gave a blue diamond on this thing at the very bottom. Check that out. That's crazy on a weekly. Yeah, it's there on the 4 day, of course. Yeah, so this thing, I think it's probably found its bottom. I mean, it's getting real tight there. And what I mean by tight is as this thing comes down, look at that EMA cloud, it's just squeezing together. And by the way, if you go into the signals in Signal Scanner and you type in squeeze, it's going to start printing these out for you. I don't know why it's not doing it yet. I'm still working on it, but it will do this for you in the future. So be looking out for that. So there's two different alerts. There's the volume alerts where you're looking for the waking up like this for mover, and then you wait for another signal for mover to tell you that it's continuing, and that's the one you jump in on if it hasn't pumped to oblivion. You don't want to be chasing things. But I'm working on these alerts still. This one allows you to go up here into the pin section and do things like, pull back, and it'll print out, which ones are pulling back on the 4 hour. It gives you not only perps, it gives you spot. It gives you, and that's on the 4 hour. On the daily, it gives you perps and spot. So I'm trying to cover everyone to help both sides out there. But it's taken a little while to develop it still. So just give me some time on that. But yeah, I like how this looks so far. All right, let's jump back into our spot plays here. Oh, Plume, sorry. I meant to show you Plume because I think Plume could be one that's a good spot play as well. And there you go. Um, I think I got in somewhere here, but anyway, super coil tight. This is going to turn green eventually on the EMA. What did weekly and 4 day look like? Maybe a W pattern there at the bottom. There's your blue diamond. Of course, it did give you a sell signal too there, though. There's your buy signal that it's working on currently on the 4 day. It's got 1 day and 8 hours left for this 4 day candle. You could wait for it. Perfect bounce right there. Perfect retest, sorry. And this, I believe, yeah, it's above the EMA 33. So not only do you get the signals, of course, but you get some information here on waves. It'll tell you signal is bottom, the WT trend is rising. That's this thing right here. WT zone is bullish, and the flow bias is that red is tapering. You want to see the taper as price comes down. That's a bullish divergence. You're good to go. Two bullish divergence signals right here, these two vertical lines. So you got everything you need on this one. It's even swept just barely below this October 10th. So I really like the setup. Could it come down once more? Yes, it could. This thing can just go sideways for a while. But we just do the best we can with the information we have. And that's the information we have right now on it. There's other tokens like HUMA, Wall, Deep. I asked AI to help me to come up with a list, ENA, Jupe, things like that. I don't know. I mean, there's more Morpho on here. I don't know as much about some of these. But here's how I look at crypto. Any token can be a scam. It doesn't matter which one it is. Of course, things like ETH and Bitcoin are more established. XRP as well. But when you're building your portfolio, and you still have time to do this, by the way, we've still got a couple of months before things get really bullish, I think. Think about where your blind spots are. Do you want to get into tokens that have some government, like Rod's been talking about, have some government affiliation, the ISO 2022 type tokens? just to cover your blind spot. Not that you care about those tokens, you're just covering yourself. You need to be diversified, and diversification happens not only in what you buy, diversification also happens in where you buy. So if you only have one exchange and that's it, or especially if you're just trading on DEX, like a DEX exchange, you're you have so many vulnerabilities. You need to probably, well, you need at least a minimum of two exchanges. You don't have to keep your tokens on those exchanges. I know some people that do. I know some people who have a ton of money that keep their money on exchanges. So like Coinbase or whatever. But just think about those things. Have a second phone that you never put on Wi-Fi, which it's okay if you do it sometimes, but main thing is don't connect it to things that could be vulnerable. Have a second phone that has your 2FA information. I would suggest never trading on your phone as far as having your exchange app on it. But that's up to you. I know a lot of people that do that actually. That's just the age we live in. But that's a big vulnerability, I believe, anyway. So things like that, just think about those things. These cold storage wallets, I had never heard of cold. What was that thing that got hacked? I don't even remember. I had never heard of that one. So I think things like that, even though some people lost money, I think that that's another one of those things to scare people at the very bottom of the market. And, they're just trying to get people out. And I feel for those people that happened to, but, it is what it is. Oh, Magic Eden's related to dog. Well, that's where people went to buy dog before it listed. Okay. Yeah, same here, Mark. I don't either. They can do that SIM swap too easy and just get all your information. Okay, so let's see what else we can look at. So yeah, Plume, consider that one. I don't know anything about the project. I didn't really get into that, but I don't care. I don't care about these projects. I don't care about um, the only thing I care about is is they don't leave the project. I don't care about the team. All I care about is price go up, right? That's the only thing. So as long as they're not gonna screw me over, I'm fine with it. All right, I think that covers pretty much that chart or that list of tokens. I don't want to get into every one of them, or maybe we can just do a quick rapid fire here for the rest of them. So weekly, AAVE is still rejecting. You got a red dot right there. That's not good. I'd wait a little bit longer on it. You could wait for this bounce right here on the 4-day super trend. 2-day is getting close to that bounce. This is looking better. Look at that taper right there. So it just needs a little bit more time here. What else? Pump. We can talk about pump maybe. Could be a bear flag here. Only reason I talk about bear flags a lot during a bear trend is I'm just being careful. There's always going to be a pullback, so just wait for the pullback. It's a better place to buy down here. CAS, I don't talk about much, but yeah, compression. There's no taper yet, so I don't think there's any reason to get excited about this one just yet. I told the CAS community, I said, hey, this thing's coming down. I told them in July of 2024. Maybe that was over here. Somewhere in here, I told them, no, this thing is not going to keep going up. I said, y'all need to be careful because it's probably coming back down to, what did I say, 5 cents? Yeah, I thought it would stop here, but it could even come down just a little bit more still. Could be a good token though. I mean, I don't know if this is a macro one. Maybe it is. 1, 2, possibly. I don't know much about all that, but it seems like it's possible. Pendle needs to hold that support right there. Pendle was uh, a very popular one, especially with people that work at Nansen back when it was pumping. I mean, that was a huge pump. This is another thing to keep in mind. If you have a token that does a huge pump the cycle before, maybe it won't have as big a one in the next one. That's generally what happens. So 58x move, you want to find ones that haven't made moves like this. Tau is a really good example. What has Tau done? Looks like a lot. 14x. I wouldn't say that's a crazy number. It could at least do a 10x this cycle. So This one's a little bit safer to me. Render is still coming down, nothing tapering yet. What are we on weekly? I'll look at 4-day. Maybe a little bit of a taper there. I'm going fast here. If y'all have any questions on them, let me know. Grass could be getting into or sorry, AERO. AERO could be getting into some support here because that's back where one of the bottoms was before. If it was going to come down again, I would say something like this. What is that? 38? What is this? 37. So that's AERO. Um, yeah, Luke, I mean, well, not stay out necessarily. I was just saying it's probably not going to do another 78x is what I mean. You might see something like a 25x this time or, something lesser is what I would expect. Usually tokens, they only do that one time. It could be a 10x that it does. I don't know. But, once they have that first really big impulse like that, it's generally not going to happen that they exceed that kind of a move on the next cycle. I don't think anyway. I haven't seen it. Grass may have a bullish divergence here forming. It just needs to hold right there. It did sweep under, is that October 10th? Yeah, it did sweep the October 10th right there. So this one looks like it could be favorable for a support area right there. Aether, this is one that Tatiana had found, I believe. It was like an AI thing. It's really compressed. I could see this. Yeah, there's a blue diamond right there. So could be a good one. Yeah, these like HUMA, I don't know much about, but you are getting some bottoming signals here, looks like. Okay, let me jump over to this other one real quick because I had two different AIs give me its opinion on this. Looks like a lot of these are showing up similarly. CFG, we didn't talk about. With Pepe, it looks like it added more memes to this. One thing we haven't talked about is SCI, which I think SCI could do well. Yeah, look at that. Wow. This compression on SCI is crazy. Right down into support, well, under support actually. So this one's acting a little bit more weak. The October 10th was up here, the wick, but you are getting some bullish divergences right here. It's not really tapering much yet. Let's see what 2-day shows. I mean, it is super compressed though. Look how compressed that is. That's why I like to use log because it's really hard to see it sometimes. You do have a daily blue diamond there. Sometimes these blue diamonds, especially when things are bearish, don't really play out, but sometimes they do. And you always have to take buy signals with a grain of salt when things are bearish. You really want to be looking for shorts, not longs. But if we feel like we're near the bottom, then of course we start paying more attention to these signals. Maybe wait for like a blue diamond or something on the 2-day with this one, or just wait for super trend to turn bullish. But yeah, Luke, just to go back to ABT, I don't want to discourage you there. I mean, ABT is probably as good a token as any of them. Just trying to be realistic about, targets, that sort of thing. And if we go to ABT really quick, talking about targets and talking about bottoms first, I guess. This structure makes sense for a support area, this little shoulder here. But if it was to drop again, I would say here makes sense. Was that 12 cents? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me there. And then target, if you're just going by where it's at currently, the first target would be $16, looks like, the conservative. I like using this that Tatiana uses where it's 1369, 1618, and 1936. As above, so below, the 369, 936 type thing. And that would be from here. Oh, wow. Really? Well, I don't think it's doing a 90x, but I mean, that's what the fib says. I mean, typically, here's the way I would look at it. Let's say, first you have to look at this. First, you have to say, if it doesn't exceed the all-time high, which I don't think it will, what's the logical target? Well, it's probably right here at the 8.8 fib, which not many people use that, but I like it. And that's about an 18x move. So that makes more sense to me. You start there, and if that works out for you, and it closes back above it, then maybe these other targets are in play. But just take it one step at a time, I would say. What else? We talked about PENDLE, talked about Link, ONDO. Yeah, ONDO's the RWA thing, remember? What are we looking like on a trend line here? This, maybe here. ONDO could come down to 29 cents, I guess. Yeah. It looks like it's trying to develop it had a nice move here. So maybe it's developing the support right here. It did wick under the October 10th thing. So always remember the October 10th thing. I think it can be very useful. Once it gets below the wick or near it, start watching for that bottom. Yeah, it does look really strong. I agree. Yes, yeah, true. There are a lot of good ones. Yeah, Mark, take care, man. A lot of good tokens right now for sure. Okay, how long have we been going here? I don't even know. We started at 10. So we're an hour and 40 minutes in. Probably should wrap it up. Did I cover? Oh, yeah, I was going to cover the alerts. So if there's any tokens that we didn't cover, yeah, I'll look at XLM for you, Luke. If there's any tokens that we didn't cover in this one, and you're going to be at the next meeting, or which is 2 Sundays from now, or you want to DM me or Tatiana, we'll cover them in the next one. Okay, let's see. So the XLM we're going to look at, and then I'm going to talk about these signals really quickly. We'll use the Coinbase view. Yeah, XLM looks a lot like ONDO, actually. Let me turn off waves. Okay. Let's look at the higher time frame first. So there's your support currently. It's telling you, the super trend's telling you it could come back down to here at what, 0.138. What about our fib? Yeah, that kind of makes sense there. 618. So the 0.88 is here at that previous resistance. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say what it's going to do. I was going to put a box here. That makes the most sense right now, somewhere in this box. It could come down to 11 cents, though. I mean, I'd be surprised if it did, just because, well, is that 30% maybe? Well, actually, that would make a lot of sense. So I would drag the box down to here like that then. I don't like to make the boxes that big, but I mean, that's very possible that it could still dip 30% because we were talking about if Bitcoin dipped, that some alts could still do 30% drop. So, I mean, this one's held its gains not too bad in general. So, one more dip wouldn't surprise me. Not what you want to hear, I'm sure. Oh, is he okay? So, yeah, it's Rodster's most bullish play. Luke's saying he's waiting for 11. Okay, there you go. Rod's waiting for 11 to get in. So he thinks that that level is possible too. And, part of what makes it believable is this super trend line here that was resistance before is also that same level. So if resistance turns to support, then that makes sense. But currently, this is your support right there at what did I say? 13 to 14 cents. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about alerts really quickly. I want everybody to understand what these do, which, by the way, I'll start with live charts. So this is pretty cool. You can see Rab just did this. You can type in live, and any token you want to see, it'll give you a live chart with some TA on it, like support, resistance. Yeah, I mean the target's going back up basically for I think the daily chart is what it looks like, but it gives you a 4 hour and a daily picture for the direction. Let me check something. I want to make sure it's working right. Yeah, so daily is still getting rejected. Yeah, so daily picture, it's below the EMA 33, which I do want to verify that first. You have to double check on the AI. It could make mistakes. Daily 33. Yeah, it's under it. Okay. So anyway, you're going to get things like MACD, RSI, volume. Here's a trending support line you can see right here that's dotted. Here's your cloud that's acting as resistance currently. I know that's a little bit harder to see, but there's a red resistance line as well. If it gets above that resistance, here's your targets. Here's your support down here. Actually, that does say resistance on these lines, so that's good. So you can just type like live SEI, and the bot must be down. Let me check it. He just used it though. Try something else. Hmm. Oh, there it goes. I don't know why it did that. Anyway, popped up here. Daily and 4 hour is bearish. So in this case, you wouldn't mess around with it. You'd say, okay, well, I'm just going to wait. Maybe I'll check tomorrow and maybe it'll show bullish on 4 hour and then maybe I'll jump in at that point. So if you don't want to check charts yourself, this can be helpful to you, but always verify before you jump into anything. Okay, so let me just tell you what these mean, which I think, yeah, I've got some new ones for you here. So bots, that's just looking for bottoms early. That's looking for tokens that are still early that haven't given a bottom signal yet, but it's ones to keep an eye on. And I don't think these are working really well right now, but I'm working on them. Strong would be tokens that are strong versus Bitcoin, like they're stronger than Bitcoin currently. Shorts, kind of self-explanatory. You're looking for shorts. Check is not really something you need because we've got that live channel now, so where you can look at charts, so you don't need this check thing. Pullback is a pullback in an uptrend, so you're just looking for pullback to find an entry if you missed entry. Buy is what it sells, sell is what it says. You're looking for buy and sell signals. I think the bot's signal, the way it differs between these, I think the bot signal looks for specifically the waves indicator giving a bottom signal. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And then squeeze will show you those squeeze tokens that we showed, like tensor and me and that sort of thing, or anything that's like constricting really tightly on a high time frame. I think that's about all I wanted to talk about, but let me verify here. So we talked about alts to accumulate and how to find them. We didn't cover all of them because it takes a long time. We did some Q&A, talked about Bitcoin bottom, and we talked about the alerts. Yeah, so we covered everything. Okay. Well, I appreciate y'all joining. Luke and Rab, thank y'all for sticking around. I know it was a long one. Yeah, for everybody else, we will get that recording out to you, which you won't know that until you get the recording. But yeah, y'all have a good weekend too, Rab. Thank you very much. And yeah, let's get this money. We're here at the bottom. Let's put our plan together. You still have time. You still have time to accumulate some money and make some purchases. Yeah, me too, Luke. Thank you, man. Thank you for always being positive. And yeah, you get me excited about it too. 90% in spot. That's good to hear. That's what you want to be. Okay. Y'all take care, guys. Thank you again.